Today, folks, is the 82nd birthday of Emmett Till, the 14-year-old boy in Chicago who was lynched in Mississippi, sparking the civil rights movement. At the White House today, President Joe Biden created the Emmett Till and Mamie Till-Mobley National Monuments in Mississippi and Illinois. In his speech, he talked about the importance of this story to American history.
When I was preparing these remarks, I quite frankly, and my colleagues will understand this, I found myself trying to temper my anger as I was writing it. I'm not joking. I can't fathom what it must have been like. It's hard to believe I was 12 years old. And I know no matter how much time has passed, how many birthdays, how many events, how many anniversaries, it's hard to relive this. It brings it all back. We were talking about Rev as if it happened yesterday. The images in your head, things you remember. But it's inspiring to see how many of your family have continued as mothers' courage to find faith in pain, purpose in pain. That's a remarkable thing, it seems to me. Insisting on an open casket for her murdered, and I might add, maimed and mutilated son. 14 years old. 14 years old. She said, let the people see what I've seen. Let the people see what I have seen. My God. All of us have lost children in other ways. How hard it is even to close the casket or keep it open, or what a debate it is. But to see the child that had been maimed, and the country and the world saw, not just heard the story of Emmett Till and his mother, as a story of a family's promise and loss in the nation's reckoning with hate, violence, racism, overwhelming abuse of power, brutality. It's hard to fathom this even in war for me. It's hard to fathom. But today, on what we've been, would have been Emmett's 82nd birthday, we had another chapter in the story of remembrance and healing. Just as we joined together when I signed the law in his name to make lynching a federal crime, and think how long that took for that to happen. And we screened the movie Till at the White House. Today we join together as I sign a proclamation designating Emmett Till and Mamie Till-Mobley National Monument in both Illinois and in Mississippi. When we ended lynching as a matter of law, we talked about wanting to do this, but the support from the community has been so overwhelming. I thank the members of Congress for their support, but more than that, their leadership. At a time when there are those who seek to ban books, bury history, we're making it clear, crystal clear. While darkness and denialism can hide much, they erase nothing. They can hide, but they erase nothing. We can't just choose to learn what we want to know. We have to learn what we should know. We should know about our country. We should know everything, the good, the bad, the truth of who we are as a nation. That's what great nations do, and we are a great nation. That's what they do. For only with truth comes healing, justice, repair, and another step forward toward forming a more perfect union. We've got a hell of a long way to go. That's what's happening. That's what's going to happen with visitors of all backgrounds to learn the history of Emmett Till and Mamie Till-Mobley through our national monument. Look, telling the truth and the full history of our nation is important. It's important to our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, to our nation as a whole. I've said it before. It was a lesson I learned coming out of, not like real leaders in the civil rights movement, but I came out of the civil rights movement as a kid, as a public defender. And I used to, think that you pass something that was good, you can make hate go away. Hate never goes away. It just hides. It hides under the rocks. And given a little bit of oxygen by bad people, it comes roaring out again. It's up to all of us to deal with that. Up to all of us to stop it. Up to all of us. The best way to do this is with the truth. It's used in a different context, but I think it applies here. Silence is complicity. I will not be silent, nor will you be silent about what happened. There's really critical work ahead to continue the fight for racial justice and equality for all Americans. And my administration is committed to leading the path forward. And I know the members of Congress here are even more committed than that. I'm going to close with this. The reason the world saw what Mrs. Till-Mobley saw was because another hero in this story, the black press. Oh, I'm serious. Jet Magazine, the Chicago Defender, and other newspapers and radio announcers who told the story were unflinching in the bravery with which they told that story, making sure America saw what they saw. Ida B. Wells once said, quote, "The way to right wrongs is to turn the light of truth upon them. The way to right wrongs is to shine the light of truth on them." Well, that's our charge today. By the way, parenthetic, do you ever think we'd be talking about banning books in America? Banning history? I'm serious. The Till family, to all of you here today, I thank you for your courage, for never giving up. Never giving up. Before I say even what's more is on my mind, I'm not going to leave this podium. No, I mean, it's just barbaric. Barbaric what happened. And seriously, all you moms out there, imagine the courage it took to say, let them see. The courage. I thank you all for being here. And I know I'm considered too much of an optimist, but I believe if we keep pushing, we're going to continue to make progress. We're going to continue to make progress. It's already being made. The idea that when that 14-year-old was buried, that in this Indian treaty room, there were this many people of color holding powerful office, changing the direction of the country, would have been beyond our comprehension. And we're just getting started.
Folks, so mine is going to be included 3 different sites, and obviously it recognizes the importance of this story to American history. I want to bring my panel right now, talk further about this. Because it is critically important. Of course, we have Mustafa Santiago Ali, former senior advisor at the EPA, Jones's Law, Victoria Burke. She writes with NNPA, the Black Press of America. We also have on the panel Joe Richardson, civil rights attorney. Glad to have all 3 of you here. When we think of this story, Joe, I mean, it really speaks volumes about, again, what it launched, but it is still raw for African Americans when you think about what took place. And even the sign where there's a sign where his body was thrown over the bridge, where they commemorate that it's been shot up several times. And so you still have hate that exists here in this country.
No doubt about it, Roland. And in fact, I hope to join Deborah Watts and the family and everyone down there next month for the 68th anniversary, basically. But this is still very raw. There's no question about it. But, Mamie Till deserves credit for starting the modern civil rights movement with the transparency of saying, I want people to know what happened to my son here. And so that open casket got that thing started. And even as we go along, after all these years, you look at the work that the foundation is doing, Deborah Watts and everyone, and her daughter and other folks in the Emmett Till family, they are very much like mothers and matriarchs to those that have lost people for modern day lynchings. Whether it's Michael Brown or whether it's Trayvon Martin, they still have that role. And just now, as the president said, this bill got signed, the Anti-Lynching Act. That was last year. I mean, that was recently. So this is still very raw. And then this war has many fronts, including probably the most important one is voting. We're still talking about what's going on in the South. We're still reeling from the Supreme Court's decision almost 10 years ago now that basically allows people that want to discriminate and do voter suppression to do so. And even Alabama has defied the Supreme Court. Even now, only in the last few days, redrew the districts to make one black district when they were supposed to make two. And so this is still raw because it's still happening. The underlying notions of hate, of ignorance, of indifference at the very least, acquiescence, and silence, all of which is going to go to the negative as it pertains to being on the front related to civil rights, treating it for what it actually is and not acting like we've made it, because we haven't. Maybe it looks different, but the last recent few years, it doesn't look a whole lot different at all, to be perfectly honest with you. You still have modern day lynchings occurring. You still have a lot of problems that are going on. And we're glad that the family is there. We're glad that the president is acting. And we hope to not only have the memories that these monuments will give, but continuing in corresponding action.
Lauren, when you hear the president talk about the importance of the black press, I mean, the reality is without black-owned media, you would not have seen this story get as much attention as it did. And it still speaks. It still speaks to how critically important it is for black-owned media to tell a story that many other people do not tell.
Yeah, and so much of the Emmett Till story obviously is about the black press and the fact without the black press that we would not have known about this story. And obviously without Mamie Till doing what she did, we would not have known about this story in the same way. I do think that I've kind of grown tired of, as great as this is and as unprecedented as this is, I have grown tired of sort of monuments and proclamations when, in fact, there's policy that can be glued to this as well. In the form of qualified immunity, in the form of funding defense attorneys around this country. Even if somebody just announced something about the Innocence Project, money going to them, something, to the points just made, Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown, nobody paid a price for that. Zimmerman got away with that. The cop that shot Michael Brown got away with that. And it seems like to me the real sort of monuments that we should be building right now are built by policy and not just by granite and stone or whatever this is going to be. And it's not that I'm, in any way against this commemoration, because, of course, it's good to commemorate and remember history. But at the same time, I wish that this announcement had been joined by some policy, because I do think the Democratic Party has a great deal of problems when it comes to talking about things like qualified immunity, which, of course, they don't want to talk about. There was a famous caucus call in the Democratic Party, I think it was 2 years ago, where there was a big argument about whether or not they should even be talking about anything involved in the Black Lives Matter agenda around police brutality, because a lot of Democrats feel they're losing votes. But the fact that the party doesn't even want to talk about policy, but does want to talk about monuments, I do think is slightly problematic here. When in contemporary days, we still see things like Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown. When I was a kid, I watched the Central Park Five close up, living in New York. So that for me, this without policy is a little bit lacking in something more. It can't just be talking anymore. It can't just be a monument anymore. There does have to be something happening on the policy level.
You can't get the policy unless it goes through Congress. And the reality is Democrats can't pass anything by themselves. They don't control the House, and they do control the Senate, barely control the Senate. And so anything dealing with policy, especially qualified immunity, has also got to involve Republicans.
I think that the fact that nobody's even talking about
Lauren, hold on 1 second. That was from Mustafa.
Mm-hmm. No, it has to be anchored in policy. We understand the difficulties that are currently going on, but everything that Lauren said is exactly right. We can't do these perfunctory types of things anymore. You got to put some meat on the bones, if you will, to make sure that we are actually moving toward justice. Because when we don't do that, we continue to set up these situations where folks continue to be prey, because that's exactly what Emmett Till was. He was prey for Ray Bryant. He was prey for J.W. Milliam back there on August 28th, 1955. And it was legal in some aspects because when it went to the court, they let him go. And then in 2020, when we brought stuff back again, once again, there was no prosecution for his death. So we got to begin to make sure there's real policy that helps to change these dynamics.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
For decades, the tobacco industry has deliberately targeted Black communities and kids with marketing for menthol cigarettes. It's had a devastating impact on Black health. Tobacco use claims 45,000 Black lives every year. It's the #1 cause of preventable death. In the 1950s, less than 10% of Black smokers used menthol cigarettes. Today, it's 85%. Ban menthol cigarettes. Save lives.
When you talk about Blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in Black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.